Time to talk to our boy Barstool Nate, Eric, Nathan, Nate Dog. What up, dude?
Boys, fellas, good morning. How are you?
We're good, man.
Fantabulous.
Me and B went to the Caps game last night.
I saw you. You're sitting on the glass. Pretty good seats.
That was Saturday. Saturday, I had the girls. Last night was just the boys.
Not glassies though. Last night.
Nah,
sweet seats.
Sweet seats, chilling.
That's good. All you can eat, all you can drink. I know that's a pretty good deal.
You know that life. How much you think they needed that? Even though they kind of coughed up a big lead, I think it was really important for them to get that win before you go to the Garden tomorrow night.
Yeah, people love to overreact. Look, it's an 82 game season. You're gonna slump. You're gonna lose 3 games in a row at some point. It happened to be right now. Lost to the Flames at home. Lost to the Blues at home. Lost to the Lightning at home. They came out flat. They didn't look great. Kind of just bad performances. It happens. We're still the best team in the East by a long shot. I would say best team in the league because we did destroy the Jets when we played them a couple weeks ago. If you're worried at all about the Caps, I think you're just the silliest of geese. I think there's zero reason to be worried about them. This is a very strong team, a very good team, a team with great goaltending, a team that can score at any given minute. Last night, blowing the lead, that was the only thing that I think last night was worse in a way than the losing 3 in a row because you just can't squander 3-0 leads, especially late in the season and then going into the playoffs. But they found a way to win. I actually like the way the Senators play. I think they're a good team. It was a shootout win. It wasn't the prettiest win. A lot of bad penalties. The refereeing, as you tweeted, JP,
horrible,
was horrendous.
Yeah.
And I am not a blame the refs guy ever. Very rarely am I a blame the refs guy. Last night was a very easy blame the refs guy. They were awful all night. The Caps still won. We're on to MSG tomorrow night.
Why is it when guys go up 2-0, 3-0, the other team always seems to get back into it?
It's kind of you used to play football, BMItch, I recall. It's kind of like when you go into a prevent defense. You rest on your laurels a little bit. You're not putting 110% effort. You think that you just have this lead and you can get away with just coasting for the rest of the game. Hockey ain't like that. It's you see it across the league all the time. They all, there's that little bit 2-0 is the worst lead in hockey.
Right.
It's probably a little bit psychological. Great teams don't blow 2-0, 3-0 leads, and the Caps didn't last night. We held on, got the win. If you're worried about this team, just grow up. But be an adult. There's nothing to worry about.
I wouldn't say. I agree with you. Like the fact that we were talking about this yesterday, the fact that they lost 3 in a row and still were 6 points clear for first place in the Eastern Conference is pretty damn telling.
We're 12 up in the Metro. It's quite the lead.
Right. All right. Well, let's shift. Arguably the biggest news of the weekend: Washington trading for Deebo Samuel. What's your reaction? How excited are you to add that kind of a playmaker to what Washington has?
Yeah, I like Deebo Samuel. I think that I tweeted and talked to you guys and shouted from the mountaintops and wrote letters to the editors nonstop about how badly this team needed another wide receiver besides Terry. I'm not. You know what? I'll say it. I was a hater of the rest of the wide receiver room. De'Ami Brown, I could care less where he plays next year as long as it's not in Washington. Zacchaeus tried. He just wasn't the guy. Noah Brown is fine, but just isn't consistent enough to be a number 2 or really a number 3. And McCaffrey couldn't even get on the field. This team terribly needed another wide receiver all season long. Jaden Daniels is so good at quarterback. He made these guys who would be 4s and 5s on every other team. He made them into competent wide receivers at times because he's so good at quarterback. But we really, truly just desperately needed wide receiver help all season. Deebo Samuel is exactly that. He's a few years removed from his best season where he had 1,400 receiving yards. He only had 670 this last season, but he can catch the ball. He can especially catch the ball at the line of scrimmage and make people miss. He was not motivated. I think even he would admit it in his final season in San Francisco. He seemed like he just really needed a new environment and a new place to play. I think he will be extremely motivated in Washington. I think he is not even close to being done as Eagles fans wish that he was. I have nothing but high hopes for Deebo Samuel.
But they added him, but just him and Terry can't get it done by themselves. So some of those guys that you say they didn't, Jaden made them good, they did some stuff. They could be a big plus in a different position on this squad as well.
Absolutely. It's very helpful when you have a bunch of 4s and 5s, but you don't make them be the number 2. They will be way more comfortable, I think, and I think we'll see it this coming up season. Like Zacchaeus, we're not going to make him have to catch 10 balls a game because he's not meant for that. He does not have the talent to be a number 2 wide receiver. And I'm not trying to poo-poo on him. It just is what it is. Some guys have it, some guys don't. He stepped up when he really, really tried to step up. He just clearly isn't that option you need as a number 2 wide receiver. And then, we'll probably have to draft someone in the first few rounds and see what they can do as well. This wide receiver room, it's not our biggest need anymore now that we have Deebo Samuel, but it could certainly use another guy.
Yeah, I think getting Deebo to me doesn't mean that OZ, Noah Brown, De'Ami Brown are all gone. I think at least one of those guys are back, maybe 2 of them.
I agree.
I also think they can add at wide out in the draft. It's funny, though, going into the season, I think everybody said D-line is how you got to win. B and I just went through the games, and 3 games against Philly, and Philly is now their target, right? Like, it's the whole NFL's target, but they got to play them twice. Standard. They're in the division. And in 3 games against Philly, they gave up on average about 220 rushing
670 something yards.
Yeah, dude. How do you
Deebo
want them?
Not going to help that.
Yeah, how do you want them to attack the D-line?
Bro, got to assume a wrestler. I don't know. How can you bring down Saquon? Using the Eagles as the example.
Saquon behind that line.
Yeah, it's a little unfair because the Eagles' offensive line was dominant and Saquon, obviously, unbelievable. This team has to rebuild both sides of the trenches, offensive line and defensive line. I don't think it's any secret. This offensive line and defensive line was not quite there yet, and I think that was to be expected. I give them a lot of just like gold stars for what they tried to accomplish, and how this team went to the NFC Championship game despite these flaws that we can talk about. And I don't want to only focus on, well, we need to upgrade the defensive line. Oh, the offensive line isn't good enough. While both true, they did everything and more. And I respect that so much. And now in year 2 of the rebuild, the recalibration, whatever you want to call it, we're just going to add guys to the draft, probably get a veteran for the offensive line and free agency, plug people in where they need to be plugged in, and go from there. Both sides of the line of scrimmage will be improved this coming up season compared to last season. I think that's a no-brainer. It'll take time to find the right guys. I don't think we'll be a fully complete team even this season because stuff just takes time. Guys have to develop. We're not 100% ready to compare ourselves to the powerhouses quite yet, despite making the NFC Championship game, because there's just holes that need to be filled on both sides of the line of scrimmage. It just is what it is.
But the expectations will be different. And I think, you can't, that excuse of, we're not going to be full doesn't make a difference. You're going to be playing against the team this year, and you better be able to get closer to them than you were, or you're going to have problems. The expectation is no longer, let's make a playoff. Now, it's now, everyone's going to expect big things. And if you can add people to your team, especially on the defensive side of the ball, you got to.
I'm just trying to preach patience. I'm trying to preach that despite how good this team is, we still have to be patient. We still have to recognize that, the last 5 years of the draft basically didn't exist. Nobody's here anymore, and we're starting over. And there's only so many picks in the draft, and you have a salary cap that you need to adhere to. If this isn't the year, give me one more year. But they're doing everything right. Adam Peters is doing everything right. I fully trust that he knows and understands how to build this team. And I think by the end of next season, we won't be having this conversation. We'll be booking flights to a Super Bowl.
I love that, Nate Dogg, that eternal Nate Dogg optimism. Talking with our friend Barstool Nate here on the Rude Guest Hotline. Rude makes the most reliable heating and air conditioning products in the DMV. This story came out. I got to say, I love the honesty here. There was a report that Deebo was overweight last year,
Mm-hmm.
and he now, granted, this came after the trade and everything has happened, and he feels, I imagine, especially given his familiarity with Peters, he feels quite settled and excited. And Deebo just quote tweeted the report. He's like, and he said, I was 225, can't wait for this season to start, fresh start, new bow. So he's owning that he was 10 pounds overweight.
Mm-hmm.
The dude had this weird pneumonia thing and then injuries. Like, I don't think it's that hard to see how that can happen.
Mm-hmm.
Brian, what level of motivated player do you think Washington's getting here?
Scale 1 to 10, I'll go with a 10. Because see, that story came from someone to try to make him look bad. Okay? And whoever it is, the player gonna think it was somebody inside the building. And that right there will just motivate the hell out of him. So if he come in there,
but he's owning that it was true.
Okay, yeah, but he was true, but he had a pneumonia deal. When you gain weight during the season, something is going on. So if I'm a player and I was dealing with some issues and I was overweight, but you're now trying to act like I just didn't try to work out, that's a problem to me. So I think that's why the motivation will be even more. Because yes, I can own it, but I also know the reason. See what I'm saying?
Nate, how excited are you for a motivated Deebo, knowing the kind of player he can be when he's right?
Look, the Niners seemed to be a mess inside the locker room last year. McCaffrey went down. Ayuk was constantly in trade talks. Obviously, Deebo was
then Ayuk
in
goes
trade
down.
talks and traded. Yeah, and they end up going 6-11. And I mean, Deebo, he might just be like any old guy at a job who's looking around, watching the corporation crumble, and being like, "Why am I going to give 100% effort if nobody around me is giving 100% effort?" And he kind of admitted it, like you said. He's like, "Yeah, I was a little fat last year. Is what it is." He has 1 year left on his contract. He's playing with a quarterback who I assume he's gonna just thrive with in Jaden more than maybe he just didn't really vibe that well with Purdy. We don't know, but it seems like there was weird stuff going on in San Francisco all season. I think Deebo will be very motivated, and he has to be, because Jaden's not going to let him rest on his laurels. He's not going to let him be fat. Like if Deebo's fat, Jaden won't tolerate that. So I think, 10 out of 10 motivation. He's playing for a new contract. He's playing on a team that, has aspirations higher than, as BMItch just said, this isn't hopefully we make the playoffs. This is when are we making the Super Bowl? That's what this team's looking at right now. So, yeah, I think we're going to see vintage Deebo Samuel. He's still on the correct side of 30, 29 years old. If he gets back down to 215, running 4.4s, like, sky's the limit for him.
Yeah, and I think what he's being asked to do is going to look a lot different than what he was asked to do in San Fran.
It's a pass-oriented team.
I think
so he won't have to run it as much as he used to run it.
I agree with that. I think Cliff's offense is really, really good for him. The Deebo stuff to me is really exciting, and there's no naivete on this. Like it's eyes wide open for everybody involved. Deebo knows the chance he's getting and what it means. Mm-hmm. Peters knows the risk he took, which is fairly minimal, but you did have this like elite chemistry and culture vibe that you don't want to mess up. So for Peters, it's I know this dude, he's going to fit. And then for Deebo, it's, all right, I got to make this work. So I think it's there for both sides. Yeah. And I think that's just really exciting. I did want to ask you, Nate, before we let you go, dude, are you getting into Terps basketball mode? They got 2 games left. Michigan tomorrow night, Northwestern over the weekend. They're up to 13 in the AP poll. I legit don't know the last time we were up to 13. Maybe White Brian can track that down for me. Where are you at with the Turtles?
It's great. We briefly touched on it last Tuesday, but growing up, Maryland basketball was my number one thing. It was like Caps and Maryland basketball, 1A, 1B, right? Because that was, ACC, Gary Williams, the games versus Duke, national television all the time, crazy atmosphere at Cole, and then Comcast. And when Maryland's good at basketball, college basketball is better. It just is what it is. I think a lot of the students right now did not grow up with this unwavering love for Terps hoops because
Yeah.
of just how tumultuous it's been. But now that we're good again and you're seeing Comcast get fired up again, I know Scott Van Pelt is buying T-shirts for every student. We're number 13 in the country. Oh, it's Xfinity, whatever. Yeah, no, the Crab Five, it's a very exciting time to be a fan of Maryland basketball again. I've been waiting for this for so long. We were good in 2020 when COVID shut down the season. I think we were first in the Big Ten when that happened.
Dude, I think they won the Big Ten, and then the season got shut down the next day. They beat Michigan. I want to say it was Michigan. They beat them at home. Now, granted, I think like 6 teams tied for the Big Ten title, but Maryland was one of them.
Yeah, so, Derek Queen, he's going to be a lottery pick, so he won't be back next year. But the rest of the guys, Jacoby and Rodney Rice and Julian Reese, who came back after last season, it's great. It's very fun. It's going to make the tournament a lot of fun for everybody locally to watch and have a rooting interest in. And then hopefully, this just is the spark that the program needs to keep bringing in 4 stars and 5 stars, and keeping all the in-state guys at home. It's a process that hopefully will domino it.
They've gotten a bunch of cash. Remember there was that press release?
10 mil.
They got 10 mil just for basketball. And football, 10 mil helps in football, but you got 70 dudes on your roster. 10 mil for hoops, where you got a 12-man roster? I feel like that's real money. That 2020 season, they got screwed with COVID. They got up to 12th. They were ranked 12th when the year ended. Apparently, they got as high as number 3 that year.
We were third that year? Jeez.
I don't know.
I don't remember that.
Listen to this. Yeah, you both know my boy Rudy, who's nuts. He's the biggest Maryland fan in the world. Rudy has a projections of where Maryland's first and second round destination is going to be. He's saying Providence, Seattle, Denver, Milwaukee, Wichita, Cleveland, Raleigh, Lexington. I would try to go to Providence, Raleigh, or maybe Lexington. I've never been to Kentucky. You ever been to Kentucky, B?
Yeah.
I bet Kentucky's fun.
Yeah. Especially Louisville.
Nate Dogg, would you go to Providence for some Terps hoops?
Are you driving? I'll bring the snacks.
I mean, just take the train, dude. The
We'll
train from New
see.
York to Providence is 50
like 2.5
minutes.
hours.
Yeah.
I've done it before. Very easy train ride.
You are the biggest sports fan that will never leave his apartment to go watch a game. Are you going to Caps Rangers tomorrow night?
I'm out of town. I'm in Vegas right now.
No, you're not.
He's lying.
Swear to God, I'm in Vegas right now.
I
don't fall off that curb.
I'm in Las Vegas, Nevada right now.
Send me a picture.
No, I won't.
Text me. I got to go.
All right.
All right. That's our boy, Barstool Nate. Give him a follow on X at Barstool Nate.